This information you are about to hear and perhaps view, these are not necessarily the thoughts or the ideas of Gary C.Clement or the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast. We are in no way, shape, or form affiliated with the parties this story is about or was interviewed for. Parts of this content may not be owned by or the property of the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast, G2 Network Media, or any other company we are affiliated with, and this information is strictly the opinion of those being interviewed. This content is for information purposes only, and although we may make reference to various news stories, we share our own independent beliefs about the content and provide our own opinions. Please enjoy the information. Haard News, hosted by Gary C.Clement. Today's news is made up of so many different issues, and it's hard to keep up. But we all know it's important to keep law enforcement in the community and society, as many in America have a problem doing the right thing. Growing up, my mother always said it's easy to do right, but so many people choose wrong, and once you get in trouble, it's very hard to get out of it. Haard News will tackle all issues that break the barriers of justice for all, freedom for all, and simply a good and strong meaning of democracy for all. The show covers politics, crime, gun violence in our communities, and will introduce guests who have a personal stake in these issues. So without further ado, please enjoy this week of Haard News, hosted by Gary C. Clement. Welcome to Haard News. My name is Gary C. Clement. In this episode, we are discussing the topics of the NAACP and recruiting today's generation. Number 2, Juneteenth celebration and why we celebrate today. And number 3, social media. Our young people are out of control. Our guest for this episode is Dr. B. Angelo Birch, Sr. of the Ministers Alliance of Durham, North Carolina. He's also on the board of the Durham Affairs of Black People, and he's the president of the NAACP here in Durham, North Carolina. Also with us today, and we're waiting for him, is Reverend Albert S. Williams, retired pastor of the Stern Memorial CME Church in Pittsburgh, North Carolina, and my co-host, Mr. Ron Dove of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. How are you all today?
Fine. Doing well, thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. So first of all, Dr. Birch, we'll start with you. First of all, just tell us about your position as the head of the NAACP here in Durham, North Carolina. How long have you been the president there, and just what's going on exactly, please?
Well, I was elected last year in November, installed in January of this year. So far, we're just trying to get some basic things completed. As far as getting our offices set up, and just some nuances that are done, because we have a lot of work to do in our community, and especially with the upcoming elections and with the way things are right now. We definitely have to be in place and in a space to where we can address some of the issues that is happening with our community and with our people.
Okay. Yes, sir. Okay. Because I know that you all actually were located downtown Durham. Are you not there anymore, or what exactly?
No, sir. Now, I cannot speak to how long it's been since they moved from downtown Durham. I know they moved before COVID, but exactly where the offices were after that, we were in the Mutual building. And then, of course, things transitioned, and COVID came, and everything just kind of went out of whack. So right now, we're getting ready to move our offices actually over to Crowsdale now.
Yes, sir. Okay. When it comes to the NAACP, we know over the years that, the organization has been very strong with the community, as well as with voting rights and civil rights and all of that. Today, in a lot of, circumstances, and I'm not sure exactly why this is, but it seems as if in a lot of, to me, that the NAACP is not as prevalent anymore as it used to be. Can you speak to that, please?
I can't speak to it nationally, and I wouldn't try. I can only say, as far as we are concerned in Durham, that we are trying to get back to some normalcy, into where we are doing those things which are necessary for our community. As far as my Durham branch, I think just in the past years, because of COVID, the past president has done a yeoman's job in keeping up the branch and doing what she could while she could. So the onus is now upon me to move forward. What has happened in the past, I wouldn't be, there's a word I want to use I probably shouldn't, but I'm not going to speak to what someone else has done or what someone else has not done. I can only speak to what I think I need to do to make sure that we do what we need to do for Durham and for our community.
Yes, sir. Okay. One major problem, I guess you could say too, now in today's world is our young people are, having a lot of issues in a sense of causing, I could say, gun related situations or whatnot. What are you all trying to do to address those issues?
Well, we're working with the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People to look at how we can address those issues. To speak to the society ills, some of these things are systemic in as much that we have to look at the way we have allowed our children to raise themselves versus, what is going on in our homes. Again, to take stock in our kids and to help them to understand that there are better things and better ways to maintain and to move. But I think we have to be examples as well. Our kids this is a new day and a new time. What they're seeing and how they are reacting to these things, to homelessness, our housing crisis, what's going on in our communities with gentrification. We have to have an answer, a solid answer for that. And we have to give them something to hold on to, as well as we have to open up the door to let them come in and help us and speak to us as to what they see. Too many times we get into a tunnel to where we think, well, we've done it this way, it's always been that way, and that's the way we're going. But it's a new day and time, and our youth and this new generation, they're not as laid back as we probably were, and now we have to give some guidance while allowing them to grow in the right way and giving them some sage advice and some wisdom.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Ron, would you have anything to say?
Yes, Dr. Angelo. First, I just want to thank you for being president and leader of the NAACP, because it really is a well-needed organization, and the work that they have done. I know this is the 100th anniversary, I believe, of the NAACP, and the work that they have done in the past, which really still stands out. But I do know that there are some folks that might not have kept up with the history or kept up with the current events of the NAACP, and they kind of think that, like Gary presented to you that question, some people think that the NAACP is not relevant today as it was back then. But as you say, you can only speak for your area, because there are so many different chapters across the country. So it's so diversified as far as, where it's located. So I guess no one person can speak for all those chapters. So I mean, it's not an easy answer for you to give, because you can't answer what other chapters are doing or not doing, But I've been a member of the NAACP off and on. I mean, after a year, if you come in at the $30 rate, at least when I was involved, you sign up again. And then, there's times that lapsed that I, didn't sign, didn't renew my membership. But I go back to when Cecil B. Moore of Philadelphia was the president of the local chapter here. And one of my experiences with him on a march with us at the college. And I said, yes, definitely. And we went to our college and we marched around that college. And, after that, that college was integrated to this day. So, I know that, NAACP is a good organization, and I'm glad that we have it rather than not. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, rather than not have it. I don't, and I think that the opposition out there knows that African American, Hispanic, brown people, whatever, have this organization, so they know that at any time you can step out there and confront somebody. But my question, I guess, is what in your chapter, since you're in Durham, do you have any future plans or prospect for any type of new operations there, or anything that you might be looking forward to doing?
And if you could clarify that, because that's a broad question. So when you say operations, can you nail it down some? Or
well, I guess is there any new ideas? Okay, well, nailing it down. I guess the NAACP has operated under a certain type of ruling, or whatever however their parameters are. But sometimes people come up with different ideas. Well, maybe I want to take it in this direction or taking it in that direction, but I don't know if the rules and bylaws or whatever permit. But I'm just wondering if anything that the NAACP is planning on doing, maybe attacking some new problem as far as going into a new area of segregation, or anything that might be news to us, other than what you've been doing for the last year or so.
I think right now, as I stated earlier, since it's only been 7 months now, well, 6 months, excuse me. And so right now is trying to rebuild, to have a stable place. There's a lot in my mind, but again, I'm only the president. I do have an executive board that I work with. Right now, I'm looking at stabilization. It's impossible to go out and fight if you don't have the necessary tools. One of the tools, especially that has to be in place, is being stable. Having a website, having dedicated phones to where people can contact us, to having a place even on the internet. There's another word I wanted to use, it escapes me, but a digital footprint, if you will. But right now, my thing is getting us to a position to where we can operate and do and handle some things. We have talked to politicians. I've not been shy in saying publicly and to our branch, I am not one that chases a camera. I don't need to be in front of a camera. I just need to be able to sit down and speak with someone. I think sometimes when we can talk and figure out where we are, then we can know how we're going to get where we want to be. I would love to see our youth get more involved. Matter of fact, I had a conversation with another individual this morning about what we need to do to get our youth involved, to help them to understand what the NAACP is. But again, right now, my focus and my factors are all on getting us in a stable place to where we don't look so disjointed, to where we don't look as though we're all over the place. And so there are steps that has to be done, and to help folks to understand that there is some order. And so when people begin to see that we have a place that we can call a home, that they can have a number that they can call, that we have a website that they can go to, those things start. They're not the they're not the things that make news. Folk want you out here marching. They want you all over the place. But you have to take care of the necessities of the organization before you can start running out here trying to have marches and show up. There are meetings that I go to, that I attend. I want to listen. I want to hear what's going on. My hearing is a little different now, as being NAACP president for Durham County, because now I'm listening, and so I want to know when I speak, and make sure that when I speak from a point of strength and intelligence, and not just out saying something that's going to sound good to everyone.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Now,
sir. Okay. And I was
now,
going
I just want
go ahead.
I just want to interject.
Mhm.
You said something. You answered my question when I asked you about any new plans, and you came across with something very brilliant as far as having a digital footprint and website, and with Zoom today, where people, even with the church now, you can attend your favorite church on Zoom. And so, with the way where your thinking is going, I think is great. Even if it goes to a Zoom situation where when you have your meetings, people, if they don't make it in person, they could be there on Zoom and have more participation. So I think you do have some good ideas, but I know you have to have a stable place to be. But I just wanted to mention that those ideas I think are very good.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. We also have Reverend Albert Williams that just joined us here. He actually was a member of the NAACP years ago, and I want to kind of give him an opportunity to speak about the changes, how things used to be compared to the world we live in now. Reverend Williams.
Yes, sir. How you all doing?
Good.
All right. My next birthday, I will be 80 years old in October.
Wonderful.
I pastored 25 years in the Methodist Church, 38 years total in the ministry, and I was retired because of age, not because of looks. I've experienced a lot of things. I was the first full-time black firefighter in 1968 to be hired in the Chapel Hill Fire Department. See, at the end of what we call the work 8 hours day of work, we dormitory together, ate together at the same table. And that was an experience right there. I was, among the other experiences, the Lord was teaching me about people, how to get along with people. In all of these changes, I was the student at Lincoln High School in Chapel Hill, doing segregated times. We started first demonstration in Chapel Hill with Colonia Drug Store. That was before the students came in 1963, and they started printing the papers. See, before then, they would not let these students, journalism students from the University of North Carolina come. They came and for their training and schooling and wrote the stories, but they never let them print. Because Chapel Hill, we have to remember that we are on the hill. We are high above everybody else. You see, and so it is now. The university is certain things that happen on UNC campus that does not get into the paper. There's a stronghold down there. And the lady, I can't think of her name, she resigned because she ran into some problems. I wish she had not resigned, but she got a better offer. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to stay and deal with the storms of life and be the sacrificial lamb. Our folk have forgotten that. Mm-hmm. Because the integration, in my opinion, and strong opinion, as well as good things came in, but they also took out our history. Mm-hmm. Example, when the Lincoln High School, when integration came in the schools in Chapel Hill, and they closed out Lincoln High, they took all of our trophies. We used to play with Hillside High School and various black schools in football and basketball, Merritt Moore in Durham, Hillside. Along with the integration, they took out our history and destroyed our history, our trophies, and all carried them to the Chapel Hill dump on a dump truck. And see, now, back then, we were colored people. I'm still colored myself. Because colored people feared God and had respect for other people, irregardless of how they treated us. We stood up. Now, they erased that history. So you can go with white girls, your hormones are kicking up, and you can go with white girls here and there and have babies and what have you. They think that life is still fair. Even I married a couple of interracial couples and gave them a viewpoint just like I'm doing now. You see, before I married them, talked about real life. So our kids now that's coming along, they look at history. What you talking about? I'm on a mentoring team at St. Joseph Christian Methodist Episcopal Church in Chapel Hill on Rosemary Street. That was my home church. Ministry came out of that church. Howard Lee, when he began to run for mayor in Chapel Hill, we hosted as a place for them to meet. During the time, you remember the Freedom Riders from down south came. They were migrating this way to Chapel Hill, Durham. They came to Chapel Hill. They wanted a place to stay, wanted the churches to stay. And First Baptist in Chapel Hill was one of the most accommodating places that they could stay. They had a kitchen and a downstairs full basement and everything. Well, the pastor feared retaliation, and he did not allow them to stay there. I'm just telling you what I have experienced. And so society is taking away our history. Not only that, we as I hadn't attained the status of Afro-American yet. I'm working on it because I hadn't gotten my freedom papers from Abraham Lincoln. But I'm speaking from experience. We have gotten away from our moral and spiritual principles as far as the black family, the black community, the black leaders. There was a time in my time, during 1960, 61, 62, that it was an honor, a high honor for one of the students to go to one of the local schools, North Carolina Central in Durham, A&T College in Greensboro, Winston-Salem State. We had a principal, black principal, during segregation time that would not recommend our football players to these sports scouts that would give the students scholarships in black schools. He wouldn't recommend it. And unless you were a promising student in the school, Lincoln High School in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, if you were not a promising student, you were not allowed to take typing.
Mm-hmm. Very
okay.
Interesting. Yes, sir. Very interesting.
Yep.
Now, this is history. This is inside history. And so we have what I call quiet segregation still among ourselves, a spirit of segregation between the haves and the have-nots. The haves are the ones that have had opportunity to go to a higher educational level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the fire department. I encouraged a young black male, I said, go to the community college. You can take night courses. Mm-hmm. Take a course on fire science. If you could have an interest in fire service, that's an open door to many things. Mm-hmm. If you can serve in the fire service because of inspections and enforcing laws and all kind of things, these businesses would look to have people. They need inspectors in these businesses, big corporations and places like that. But a lot of them won't avail themselves because it's a lifestyle. You can't party all night and answer a fire call because it's a 24/7 lifestyle that we live. And I give God the glory for my physical health. I had a hip replacement, fell off a building fighting a fire down on UNC campus. Mm-hmm. And I just have so much, I guess, to say. And the NAACP here in Chapel Hill, I don't even know the president's name.
Yes, sir.
We used to have a strong ministerial alliance in Chapel Hill. It fizzled out. So there's no communication between the NAACP, or very little to none at all, because there's no ministerial alliance. The younger blacks, I call them the Afro-Americans, don't reach out. They in their own, seem to me, they're in their own little boats, trying to be recognized themselves on an individual basis rather than sacrifice and look at it, their gift, as a gift from God, like Martin Luther King. You see, I've seen this. I've been in it. Matter of fact, let me give you a recent example. Last Friday, at the Sheraton Hotel in Chapel Hill on 15501 North going to Durham, we had a celebration of a first black fire chief retiring in Chapel Hill. Mm-hmm. Okay, I sat at the table with the mayor of Chapel Hill, the town manager, my wife and I, and Reverend Al Sharpton came into town. Mm-hmm. Now, we were talking about that, and her reply, this is the mayor of Chapel Hill, her reply was, we didn't know it. we did not know anything until the last minute. Now, what would a person like Al Sharpton, with his philosophy, doing a good job, come into town like a place in Chapel Hill, the University of North Carolina, they call the southern part of heaven? It's a mixing bowl, and not let us know so we could have turned out. But we didn't know it. He was the only reason why I knew he was in town. I watched the news. I get the newspaper. That's the only reason why I get the newspaper, is to try to keep up with what's going on locally.
Yes, sir.
There's reaching out like it used to be, and encourage them, you know, as far as community-wise. So that's kind of my story.
Yes, sir.
I hadn't given up, and I'm not going to give up.
Right. Okay. I don't want to cut you off, but like I said, I wanted to kind of ask Dr. Birch a couple of things that you kind of, just brought up in regards to, preserving the history of the NAACP in your administration. What are some of your plans in regards to doing that?
I think we have to, again, as I stated, the history is there. In order for us to preserve that history, we have to teach it to our youth. We have to live so and do those things that are necessary for our youth want to be involved, and to make sure that we filter down those things that we have seen, as Reverend was speaking, and things that he has seen personally and has experienced, and keep the lines of communications open with each other. The one thing I am thankful for here in Durham is that I'm a member of the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance of Durham and vicinity, and I served that organization for 12 years as secretary, and now I'm the credentials chair for that organization. So being a part of the Ministerial Alliance, as well as being a part of the Durham Committee on the Affairs of Black People, I speak with Chairman Jackson, and since I've been elected and installed, we have worked together to make sure that we do make sure our history is solid. Many times we talk about the NAACP, and unfortunately, a lot of people do not know the history, and they don't really know what it is that the NAACP really does. They're used to seeing snippets on the news where they've been at certain press conferences and speaking. But there's a lot that the NAACP does behind the scenes. And I think in order to preserve that history, in order to preserve the organization, we have to speak candidly and openly and honestly about the things that are taking place in our world. Reverend made mention about erasing our history. We have to speak against the fact that they're trying to wipe out our history. They're fighting the 1619 Project. They're fighting critical race theory. Anything that has to do with African Americans and what has happened in this country, they are trying to wipe out. I look at it and I think, and this is my thought. This is my thought. This is not what someone said to me or something I expect anyone else to believe. But I look back and I see where we have fought to get rid of certain statues, even to Fort Bragg. The name has changed to Fort Liberty. And it has been my opinion that those that are in power and those that have the gavel have decided, and even to DeSantis in Florida has decided, well, if you want to erase our history, then we will do the same for you. And so they fight critical race theory. They fight the 1619 Project. They fight anything that has to do with the history of who we are. And so in order for us to maintain that history, we have to keep saying it and telling it and giving it to our youth and giving it to them right and giving it to them correctly, and making sure that they know their history. There's a saying, and those that fail to remember their history are doomed to repeat it. And there's just some things we don't want to repeat in our communities.
I see. Okay. Now, when it comes down to our young people today, this is aside from whatever the NAACP does, but we have a lot of problems with, like I said, our young people with guns and drugs and all kinds of stuff. And social media actually has began to, I guess you could say, like run that race or be the culprit or whatnot, just allowing a lot of that stuff to take place. What are your thoughts in regards to being able to get our young people back in check, being able to put some kind of cap or something on social media so it doesn't cause us such a problem with us going forward in the future? What do you think, or how would the NAACP, I guess, kind of deal with those issues, if you have any idea?
I mean, I have ideas. They are personal. It's nothing that I have brought to the body, but me personally, I don't blame social media. My kids grew up in the time of social media. I think there has to be a regeneration of our home values. We have to train our kids and our children at home. And if we are not doing what is necessary as African Americans, as colored folk, as black folk, whatever you want to call us, if we don't raise our children at home, I can guarantee you that the streets will raise them. If we don't tell them what is right at home, I can guarantee you somebody's going to tell them what's wrong in the street. So I think we have to go back to our family values. We have to look at the churches, and our churches need to start picking up and teaching what is right, what is good, and not only teaching it, but showing it, and not doing in a fashion or in a manner of do as I say, but do as I do. That we walk the walk. That when we see our kids out here doing something, to say something. But we have lost that value of where our kids, if we saw them doing something wrong. When I grew up, if a neighbor saw me doing something, they would just say, your mom would not allow that. Your mom doesn't appreciate that, or they would speak to me. But it starts at home, and we have to get back to having God in our lives and God in our home and teaching our children what's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Somebody else can jump in if you need to.
And I think that Reverend is right. The home is the basic foundation of society. Now, our homes, thank the government, the structure of the government, because the more babies you have, the more your benefits are. Now, that is a controlling spirit from the government. Who is it that don't want money or need money?
Thanks, sir.
Number one. But I say money is a power in itself, but it's only a tool that has to be trained to handle it, management and stuff. We all have our falls, and struggles with money because of the high cost of living, this and that. But for instance, the UNC domestic workers want $20 an hour. Well, all that's good. But I got a raise in my Social Security and my benefits, and all of a sudden my light bill went up about $18. My water bill went up about $4 or $5. All these things goes up. And I don't know why we don't really recognize these things, that it points back to a moral and spiritual accountability for us as a black people. And I mean, you have to, I'm sorry about that. I feel, very strong because the family is being attacked. Mm-hmm. The males in the black family, mm-hmm. their hormones are kicking in. That's like mine and you all were too. At 16 years old, okay, and all. Mm-hmm. And the church does not address issues like that. I talked to the males when I was pastoring in my church, and some of the mothers didn't like it. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
The fathers and the government has structured this thing as an arm to me of control. There's certain things that you can do to get money from the government. Now, we went through it in public safety. Durham did, the public safety program. The public safety in Durham is gone now. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is that was the only way that they could get funds from the government to buy the necessary equipment to do the job. Fire, police, mutual aid, and at that time, the rescue squad, 911 was coming in. Hmm. And the government gave money to help with these things, which is good. Out here where I live, in the White Cross, it's literally White Cross. I was on the board of directors, and I made it clear about some laws of the state of North Carolina that the local fire departments and volunteer fire departments could not do. Mm-hmm. Well, the next time the election came around to vote, I wasn't even voted back on the board, and I live walking distance of the fire station because I stood up and spoke. You cannot leave and exhaust your area, the laws of North Carolina said, to give mutual aid because the taxpayers are paying tax to be protected.
Right.
You can go and help, but you can't not exhaust your forces going over there trying to help somebody else. Mm-hmm. Okay. We learned that in class and stuff. So, I wasn't voted back on the board. Mm-hmm. When you stand up and stand up for what's right, number one, you're going to get knocked down. We've been knocked down as black people all of our lives. Mm-hmm. One more hit ain't going to hurt. And our churches, I tell these young pastors, you need us older pastors to point some things out on the road to where you're going to, because we have been there. And I'm serving kind of as an advisor on the sideline at my wife's church. They're looking for a pastor. Mm-hmm. But I told them there are many things that you need to get rid of before you get a new pastor, because it's not, you have to learn these things. You got good pastors, you got bad pastors, you got good judges, you got bad judges, all leaders. Trump. No, I didn't vote for him, but I call him necessary because I classify him as a septic tank cleaner. If you ever seen a septic tank cleaned out. I have one. Many times I've seen it cleaned out. You got to get in there, not get in there literally, but take your pole and scrape the sides where the sludge has stuck to the sides of your septic tank. He, in my opinion, is a septic tank cleaner. In other words, he's putting the government, the justice system is on trial. Not him, but he's an instrument to put the justice system on trial. That's why all of these things are being challenged now. In Chapel Hill, back when there was segregation, if a black policeman had to stop a white person for anything, speed or whatever, a white patrolman had to come up and assist. That black officer was not allowed to put that person under arrest or give them a ticket unless a white officer was there. Now, I know what I'm talking about. See? So, I mean, I'm just saying, you're talking about history. Lord have mercy. Now, we have come a long ways. Even the NAACP, some crooks in it, in the top all the way down to the bottom.
Yes, sir.
We have to deal with that because all of us don't have clean hands. There's something in our lives that we need to work on. Irregardless of how saved you are, how much of the Lord you have, we still live in this earthly realm. I tell them in Bible study, the Bible study that I teach, I'm saved, but I'm not safe because I hadn't gotten to heaven yet. The trumpet hadn't sounded. Now, when you get to digging down like that, people don't want to hear it. They want to hear the sweet by and by. They don't want to hear what the responsibilities that the Lord has given us in the midst of our free choices and decisions, like Adam. He's not going to mess with our free choices. Look like the church don't want to hear that. The preachers are not preaching down-to-earth messages where we walk on this earth. We hadn't gotten to heaven yet. We have to be real. You have to tell it in love. Certainly, I certainly, with the fruits of the Spirit in place, But somebody has got to say something, else we don't know where we are going. The statues, it was brought up. What are we going to move the statues for? That's a part of history. How are you going to get a good education and you take history away? To me, that's like taking the rear view mirror out of your car, your vehicle. How are you going to have a vision? How are you going to learn?
Yes, sir.
Capitalize on these things and make it better. Just like you brought up earlier about Fort Bragg, Fort Liberty. Look at what the government is doing now to assist the veterans and the military. Because I was 3 years in the military. 2 of them was in Germany during the Berlin crisis, and it was tough over there. I was over there when they assassinated President Kennedy, and they literally called formation. It was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and they issued us ammunition. They put us on high alert. These countries are not playing. We live in one of the best countries on the face of the earth. How is it that they're going to fire a person for not taking a shot, for the COVID shot, and then let these immigrants come in? They don't know who's in the group, what they're carrying, or anything.
Okay.
You see, the government is just as wrong in a lot of instances, and this is where those that have the gift and have had a better education, better opportunity, We need people in places like that at the table to challenge a lot of these things.
We thank Reverend Williams and Mr. Ronald Dove or whatnot for their contributions or whatnot to this podcast. But we're going to give Dr. Birch a few last words to just say exactly what his expectations are for the NAACP, coming in the future, and give some contact information for anyone that wants to participate going forward.
Thank you, sir. Briefly and to the point, what I would like to see is that more people get involved with us, become members, read about what's going on in Durham, go to city council meetings, go to county commissioners meetings, and be knowledgeable about what is going on, be knowledgeable about who is running for office, and make sure that they know what these people's values are. And just don't vote because of a party. Vote because that individual is speaking your language and you can understand what they're saying about your community. They can reach us at through mail, P.O. Box 3312, Durham, North Carolina 27702. Again, P.O. Box 3312, Durham, North Carolina 27702, or they can write me or through email, which is pres.durhamnaacp@outlook.com, pres.durhamnaacp@outlook.com, or call area code 919-672-1058. Our website should be up in the next month or so. We are working on that, as well as our Facebook page. And I thank you for your time and for having me on, sir.
We really do appreciate our guests who participated in this episode, and we hope you learned something that will bless your day and your life. For all who are interested in learning more about the Gary Clement Radio Show podcast, please visit www.amazon.com and order my book, The Gary Clement Radio Show, When Strong Afro-American Men and Women Stand Up. It covers everything about us and features a variety of Afro-American personalities who speak out about the importance of education and literacy in the Black community. Well, we thank you for tuning into our podcast. Please send us your email address so we can contact you when we have new releases and new episodes and new projects as well. You can reach us at gccpresents@yahoo.com. And also, if you're interested in submitting any materials or want to get in touch with us, please do so by simply sending an email to gccpresents@yahoo.com. That's G as in Gary, C as in Charlie, presents@yahoo.com. So until next time, do take care. And this is a G-Tube Network Media production.